Welcome. This presentation will go over indirect measurement. Please be sure to take notes. Let's go over some vocabulary to start. So ratio is a comparison of two quantities often expressed as a fraction or a quotient. Example, 5 to 2 is a ratio and it's often written in those forms that you see there. Proportion is a statement showing that two ratios are equal. Example, the statement 1/4 is equal to 2/8 is a proportion. Also note that a proportion can contain a variable such as x over 3 is equal to 25 over 15. Finally, we have cross multiplication, which is a way of solving proportions. You multiply numbers across from each other in the proportion and then set them equal to each other. If you need help with cross multiplication, please view the proportions recording to get more help. So let's jump into the problems. So Leonardo wants to measure the height of a tree. He sights the top of the tree using a mirror that is lying flat on the ground. The mirror is 35 feet from the tree, and Lamar is standing 6 6/10 feet from the mirror, as shown in the figure. His eyes are 6 feet above the ground. How tall is the tree? Round your answer to the nearest foot. So we're going to go ahead and set up a proportion. We've got Lamar's height and how far he's standing away from the mirror. So we're just going to go ahead and put those on one side of our proportion. So I just labeled them as height and distance. And once again, those two are related because they both relate to Lamar. Then on the other side, we're going to want to put our tree height and distance. So please note that we've got to put the height on top and the distance on bottom. So our height is x and distance is 35. So once again, those are related because they relate to the tree, and distances are on bottom and heights are on top. Then we're going to go ahead and cross multiply. So remember, with cross multiplication, it looks like a multiplication sign, so we're going to go ahead and multiply the red and the blue, and then because the purple equal sign in the middle, we're going to set them equal. So 6 6/10 x is equal to 6 times 35. Then we're going to go ahead and multiply that right hand side, and we get 6 6/10 x is equal to 210. Then we want to get x by itself, so we need to get rid of that 6 6/10. So the 6 6/10 is being multiplied by the x. So the opposite of multiplication is division. So we're going to go ahead and divide both sides by 6 6/10 because remember what we do to one side, we also have to do to the other. We can go ahead and use the calculator, and when we do that, we get 31 and 818 thousandths, which is equal to 32 feet when we round up to the nearest foot. Remember, because the 8 is larger than 5, we round up to 32. Okay, let's go ahead and try another problem. So a woman wants to measure the height of a nearby tower. She places a 7-foot pole in the shadow of the tower so that the shadow of the pole is exactly covered by the shadow of the tower. The total length of the tower's shadow is 166 feet, and the pole casts a shadow that is 5 75 feet long. How tall is the tower? Round your answer to the nearest foot. So once again, we're going to set up a proportion. So I went ahead and chose the pole because the pole was listed first. So I'm going to go ahead and put that on my left hand side of my equation. So I'm going to put 7 over 5 75 hundredths. I'm going to go ahead and label those. So my height and my shadow. Once again, those are related because they both have to do with my pole. On the other side, I'm going to put stuff that's related to my tower. And on top, I've got to put my height, which we don't know. That's what we're trying to figure out. How tall is the tower? And then on bottom, I've got to put the shadow. which is 166. So now we can go ahead and cross multiply. So we get x times 5 and 75 hundredths and 7 times 166. Okay, then we're going to go ahead and multiply out our right-hand side. And we get 5 and 75 hundredths x is equal to 1,162. Then we want to get x by itself, so we need to divide both sides by 5 and 75 hundredths. And when we do this, we can go ahead and plug it into our calculator and get 202 and 8 hundredths. Then we run around to the nearest foot, leaving us with 202 feet. Okay, let's go ahead and try one more. So Trey wants to measure the width of the river. He marks off 2 right triangles as shown in the figure. The base of the larger triangle has a length of 62 meters and the base of the smaller triangle has a length of 29 meters. The height of the smaller triangle is 22 and 4/10 meters. How wide is the river? Remember your answer to the nearest meter. Okay, so we've got our proportion here, and we're going to go ahead and set it up. So I chose the larger triangle to be put on the left just because it was listed first. So I'm going to put my 62 and my x because we're trying to find out how wide the river is. We don't know how wide it is. So I put my length and my height because notice in the diagram there that the height is the length of the river there. Okay, and then on the other side I'm going to put my smaller triangle. So on top I've got to put the length of the smaller triangle, which in this case is 29. And then on bottom I've got to put the height, which is 22 and 4/10. Okay, please note that your proportion may look a little different. You could have the x on top, and if you had the x on top, across from it would still be the 22 and 4/10 or something like that. So yours may look a little different, but please make sure you have that circle of relationships. So everything is related directly across and up and down so that you know that you've set up your proportion right. But your proportion may look a little different than this and you may still get the same answer. So please make sure if you set yours up different than mine that you're going through and checking it with me. So now I'm going to go ahead and cross multiply. So I get 29 times x and then 62 times 22 and 4/10. Once again, I set those two equal. Then multiply out the right-hand side by using a calculator, and we get 29x is equal to 1,388 and 8/10. Then we want to get x by itself, so the opposite of multiplying by 29 would be dividing by 29. And what we do to one side, we have to do the other. We divide both sides by 29. And we get x is equal to 47 and 88 hundredths. Then we've got to round to our nearest meter, which would make it 48 meters. And that's our answer. Thank you for watching this presentation. Please send me a message if you need credit for watching this recording. If not, I appreciate you watching and hope you have a great afternoon.